This video comes to you from a happy parking lot because why not? So if I get randomly quiet and kind of stare off into the distance randomly, part of it's just because I do that as a person. I am that person. But also because there are probably people that are like walking by judging me because I'm sitting in my car with a giant DSLR camera pointing at my face, like a normal person does. So news came out recently that Stephenie Meyer's finally, after over a decade of us knowing about it, releasing Midnight Sun, which is Twilight from Edward's perspective. So let's back it up a little bit. Fun fact, I have a bachelor's degree in English. I did my theses on censorship and James Joyce's Ulysses. I've read many of the classics, including like Wuthering Heights, which by the way is a lot more accessible than most people think it is. The first 3 chapters are kind of difficult, but after you get through the first 3 chapters, it's pretty easy read. I highly recommend it. It's a good book. I've also maybe BS'd a few discussions and papers on books that I didn't actually read in a few different professors' classes. Unless, you know, it's the professor that's currently watching this video, because sometimes my professors do watch my videos. I totally read all of the books in your class. Definitely 100%. Didn't BS a single thing. But it's not really that big of a surprise that I'm an English major because, like, I've done videos on it, and then some of the videos that aren't related to college that, you know, they just kind of seem English majory because, like, censorship in books and stuff. You know, ignore the fact that my hand is orange right now. Here's what might be surprising, or maybe not because of the intro to this video. The book that inspired me to become a writer and then to become an English major was none other than Twilight by Stephenie Meyer. Yes, that Twilight with the sparkly vampires and the abusive relationships. That Twilight. I first discovered those books when I was like 10 or 11, and I was obsessed with them until about the time that I turned 14, so about the time that the last movie came out. And I could not tell you how many times I read and reread those books. Honestly, I read them so many times that the first one I was capable of speed reading to keep in time with the movie to be able to point out what they changed and what they like didn't keep in the movie compared to the book. I was a little crazy. Is an understatement. With this, I was also able to quote quite large passages of the book. About 3 things I was absolutely positive. First, Edward was a vampire. Second, there was a part of him I didn't know how big that part might be that thirsted for my blood. And third, I was unconditionally and irrevocably in love with him. So I learned that Stephenie Meyer had an English Lit degree. And, you know, me being a person that looked up to her and aspired to be her, I was like, you know what? I want to get an English degree. And I started writing a novel that had like vampires and werewolves and fairies and aliens and ghosts, all of the things, just all of the things. It was a little bit too much and it wasn't very well executed. That's beside the point. I found and fell in love with the YA genre through this. This is how Twilight is what led me to Cassandra Clare's Shadowhunter Chronicles, which I still love to this day, as well as John Green's, well, John Green, just John Green in general. See, I enjoyed reading before Twilight, and that's actually why I picked up Twilight, but I feel like Twilight is what really just ignited the passion. So what happened next? I went to college when I was 14, which is a completely different video on its own. That might happen later, I don't know. And people are talking about books that they like, because that's naturally the clique that I jump into, is the writers and the readers. And I'm getting picked on by an 18-year-old boy for wearing my Twilight shirt to school. And all around me I'm hearing commentary about how bad Twilight is, how much it sucks, how poorly it's written, and how bad the storyline is, how dumb it is that vampires sparkle. I was fortunate enough to never have a teacher that made fun of Twilight in my presence. I am a lucky one. I've heard a lot of people who have had those experiences, which I think is absolutely awful. And if you're the kind of teacher that does that, please stop. Even still, I had a lot of peers that knew I was going into English, and they were like, why Twilight? I mean, it's Twilight. It's not good. They called it trash, and I reached a point where I started joining in because it was cooler to hate Twilight than it was to not hate Twilight. And in this, I began to acknowledge and recognize more and more of the flaws in it, in the writing style, in the storyline itself, in the relationships within the book. And eventually, this just sort of completely destroyed my enjoyment of Twilight in any capacity. And this, over time, started to creep into YA overall. See, I understand why people don't like YA. One, because Twilight seems to be sort of like the resounding frontman for YA, and it really shouldn't be, because YA is a very broad genre. It's like saying it's an adult book. Not all adult books are the same. Some of them are mystery, some of them are sci-fi, so on and so forth. Not everything in the genre is the same, but that is another discussion. After college, I started trying to read different YA books, and it just was not working for me. So I decided finally, after months of not reading anything, I was gonna pick up Twilight again and see how I feel about it, because at this point, I'm 20 years old. I have not read this book for 6 years, since I was 14 years old, not even in college yet. So let's just see how I feel about it. And let me tell you, I got to chapter 8, and I had to put it down, because it was just, honestly, I couldn't stand it. It's not quality literature. It's not highbrow enough for me, you know? As an English major, I can only read quality literature. That's just how it is. And as I sunk into that way of thinking, I had to really stop myself. Like, Kendra, really, highbrow. You. Highbrow. Seriously. You took a whole class on Shakespeare's plays. A man who is mostly known for his, admittedly clever, but still, dick jokes. So many dick jokes. And you're concerned about Twilight not being highbrow and literary enough for you. Not because you personally ever truly believe that it's not highbrow. It's because other people told you it's not highbrow and literary. And somehow, in the madness, you started to believe them. So guess what? I still haven't gotten past chapter 8, even though it's been about 2 years. That's beside the point. What I did come to was that I am done with the Twilight hate. I wouldn't be who I am, where I am, if it weren't for that story. And I'm done being ashamed of telling people, like, Twilight is the reason I am who I am. And I'm done with thinking Twilight has no literary value, because guess what? It does. It opens up a lot of discussions about relationship dynamics and what is and isn't a healthy relationship, and different types of toxic individuals. There's also a little bit of conversation about gender roles, especially with the Life and Death, I think it was, the re-release of Twilight, but with the gender roles reversed. Additionally, it really helped to popularize YA as a genre overall. I feel like this is a call to end literary elitism, because I feel like there's a lot of that going around. And what really sucks is that most of it comes from either people who are highly self-important or people who don't even read. Just because, you know, academics haven't decided to call Twilight literature doesn't mean that we as individuals can't still have discussions about it. We, as readers, as individuals, can find the literary meaning in Twilight. And as for me, I'm excited that Stephanie Meyer finally finished Midnight Sun. I read the thing when it was leaked years and years ago, and it was like a rough draft of it, and it was a hot mess, but now it's done, like over a decade later. It's done, and I'm ready for it. I'm excited for it. I'm excited to see how she reworked it, if it's going to emphasize like any certain elements of Edward's personality, or if it's going to be sort of blank slate-ish like Bella's was. I don't know. I'm excited. I can't wait. It's coming out soon. Bella's personality, Bella's perspective reads like an angsty 13-year-old, which is probably why I enjoyed the story so much initially, because I was an angsty 13-year-old. Even if that irritates me, the sun may indeed rise again on the Twilight Saga. I had to make that stupid pun. I don't know. It was in my script. So sorry in advance if this video didn't have much of a point, or if it was all over the place. I really just needed to make this before I overthought it, because if I overthink it, it will never be a video, and then Midnight Sun will come out, and I will be quiet about it, and I will regret being quiet about it. So you get this disorganized mess of a video. Congratulations. Sound off in the comments down below. What are your thoughts on Twilight? Are you excited for Midnight Sun? Were you once a huge fan of Twilight? Did you like go out and watch all the movies at midnight and wear all the shirts and buy all the other merch and all that stuff? Or were you just kind of like, meh, Twilight was okay? Or did you hate Twilight? Do you still hate Twilight? Do you still love Twilight? Let me know! How many times can Kendra say Twilight in a video? This many. If I actually count. I probably didn't. I'm probably just pointing at my car window, which is okay. So I'm gonna drive home with my way too much money worth of items that I bought. Have a lovely day, and I'll see you next time. Bye! Mwah.